Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have your doubts, not what I'm about, have your fucking cloud. It be raining now, I keep making sound, go another round, bitch I'm legend bound, can't stop me now. You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease.
What is going on, everyone? And in this video I'll be giving you my UFC Vegas 54 main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday, May 14, 2022, and we're coming off one of a good events. Well, not the co-main event was not the best, but I did go 10-4, 134 ranked. So that's pretty good. Yeah, I did pretty well on this event. Wish I would have got that Rose Namajunas. I think that fight was just, you know, everyone fell asleep, rightfully so, and it's just unfortunate because, man, like Rose Namajunas just threw that fight. She could have won that fight. Charles Oliveira getting dropped, but coming back and getting the W against Justin Gaethje. I mean, it's just like he needs to get hit a couple times and then he wakes up. It's crazy. Tony Ferguson, I mean, he just got destroyed by Michael Chandler, and Chandler, you know, he's in there, right? He wants to fight for the title. He's got a lot of options now. So those were kind of like the best fights, I think. The rest of the card was pretty cool, but nothing too crazy. I guess Andre Fialho, he getting the KO there, that was pretty good. But yeah, it was a pretty good card outside of the co-main event, unfortunately. But either way, did really good on that one, so obviously that's good to see. And then now we're moving on into the next one. We've got a pretty, I would say it's a pretty solid main event, really good co-main event, should be exciting. Grant versus Smolka should be pretty decent as well. Chookagian versus Ribas, that should be good. Camacho versus Torres, and then Hadley taking on Nascimento. I would say it's a little bit better than some of these fight night cards we've had of late, so I would really look forward to this one. If you are interested in like the light heavyweight division, you know, the main and co-main event have something for you, and Grant versus Smolka should be pretty decent. So yeah, I think this is a solid fight night card as long as none of the fights fall out by Saturday. But either way, let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's go ahead and jump into the main card. So in the first fight on the main card, we have Jake Hadley taking on Allan Pro Oso Nascimento. It says 0-0-0 for Hadley, but he's not. He's 8-0 right now, coming off of a win over Mitch Raposo via submission in round number 2, and that was on Dana White Contender Series. Yeah, he's not 0-0-0, but he's 8-0. But this will be his UFC debut officially, I guess you could say. For Nascimento, 17-6, coming into this fight, coming off a loss over Tagir Ulanbekov via split decision. Let's go ahead and talk about Hadley first. Hadley, I'll say Hadley. Coming off that win over Mitch Raposo via submission, pretty aggressive fighter. He's definitely going to get in your face with the aggression, presses forward. He might have, I don't think he's going to use the grappling in this fight, but he's going to have to use it defensively. But I do think, you know, it is there, so it'll be interesting to see whether or not he can get back up. And you don't want to be on the floor with Nascimento, so he's going to have to keep this fight standing, in my opinion, is where I think he can shine. You know, he'll go for submissions though, but again, against Nascimento, I just feel like Nascimento is going to be the one probably going for the submissions, if defensively or offensively. He has a pretty quick 1-2 with some good power behind it. He's definitely trying to land on you, right? He's not one of these guys who's just swinging wildly or anything like that. He's pretty technical. He gets in your face, and he keeps working, right? So he's gonna stay in your face. He's gonna try to break you down. He's gonna try to land that 1-2. He's gonna try to land some shots, and then I think he tries to keep this fight standing. For Nascimento, pretty good kicks, pretty heavy kicks. Like I said, whether it's defensively or offensively, I think he'll probably be trying to go for the submissions, especially if they get into any grappling exchanges. He might need to create some crazy scrambles though against Hadley to get in there and see if he can look for the submissions. And he's gonna have to keep like Hadley from pressing forward the way he does and answer back with some good strikes. Otherwise, I can kind of see him getting pieced up on the feet. And his variety of striking is not really there, I don't think. Like, he doesn't really have too many. He has a lot of kicks. He threw a couple flying knees in the last fight against Ulanbekov, but you know, I would say he's more dangerous just being on the ground. He's not a guy you want to go onto the floor with and try to see whether or not you can dominate him on the floor because he's going to be throwing up submissions all over the place. But I do think Hadley's going to have the better striking by far, in my opinion, as long as he doesn't get caught with anything, as long as he doesn't get too aggressive. And we've seen that before where you have a guy come in here, it's his UFC debut. He gets crazy in there and then he gets caught in a submission. And that could very well happen. But I'm going to look for Hadley to kind of keep this fight standing, use his grappling defensively, not get taken down, press forward, be the aggressor, and kind of beat him up over the course of 3 rounds. But he has to be careful. I think if you're going to go with Nascimento, you got to take him to win by a submission. But I'm going to go Jake Hadley on this one. I'm taking a win by a decision. And then we move on into the second fight on the main card. We have Frank the Crank Camacho taking on Manuel El Loco Torres. And so this is a pretty good fight. This is going to be definitely a step down for Frank Camacho. You have Manuel Torres coming in here 12-2, Camacho 22-9. Yeah, I would say this is going to be a step down because for someone like Manuel Torres, he's coming off a win over on Dana White's Contender Series with the first round KO TKO via strikes against Colton England on Dana White Contender Series. So this will be his official UFC debut, and it is arguably like they didn't really make a big deal out of it, but they did say, on the commentary you can hear him say like, did he eye poke him? That was something to look out for. That's just unfortunate, but either way, coming into this fight, I think he's probably gonna be the faster fighter for Torres. He's gonna be the faster fighter. Fast kicking game as well. He really digs into the calf kicks. He's gonna be constantly kicking. Speed advantage, yeah, I would say so. I would say his striking has gotten a lot better if you watch some of the old stuff. It's definitely a lot better than it was. I obviously in a fight against Frank Camacho, I don't think he's going to want to brawl with him. I think he's going to fight tactical, try to pick him off from a distance, and then land those really good strikes, the speed, and just try to kind of make Camacho miss a lot. And I think he can definitely do that. I mean, like I said, like submissions, maybe go for a submission here and there, but Camacho is tough whether or not he keeps getting knocked out or whatever. In his last fight, Camacho's coming off a loss against Justin James. That was pretty short notice fight. He got absolutely cracked in that one and lost. Benil Dariush got taken down and then submitted. He defeated Nick Heim by KO TKO in 2019, June of 2019. Okay, lost that before that against Jeff Neal, lost to Drew Dober. So it is against guys that are slightly irrelevant. It's not like he's fighting like, this is probably like the least relevant, name that he's fought in a long time inside of the UFC. So that is, it is what it is, right? He can definitely crack. Camacho, I don't know if he has a chin anymore. I feel like he keeps himself a little exposed in there. He probably is going to want to be looking to just close the distance and try to land something on Manuel Torres. It's just a matter of Torres keeping him at bay and then having just the better striking selection, whether it's the kicks or, he can crack him with something. So I think early on this fight kind of gets decided. I don't really see this going to 3 rounds. I think, they're going to get at it right away. And we're going to see really what each other is about. I just feel like the striking of Torres, though, granted, obviously he hasn't fought the level of competition that Camacho has, but I do think Torres will be able to find that chin, whether it's with a kick or some of his fast striking and his speed advantage. He'll find an opening, and when he does, he's going to crack Camacho, and I'm just not sure Camacho's going to be able to take some of these shots, so I think he's going to be able to go down. Now, if Camacho does survive and he can make it a war, he can kind of beat him up, he can take him into the 3rd round, and he can, just beat up on him, put him against the fence, and kind of wear on him, and put on a classic kind of like just a veteran, wearing style on Manuel Torres. He might be able to beat him, but I just feel like Torres is going to come out here pretty aggressively and find something and find the chin. So I'm going to go Manuel Torres on this one. He has to be wary, right? He's Camacho's fought the better guys, but there's always that one guy coming in here, and he's going to try hard to do whatever he can to win the fight. So I'm going to go Manuel Torres to defeat Frank Camacho. I'll take a win by round 1, KO TKO. Let's move on into the 3rd fight on the main card. We have the woman fighting Katlyn blonde fighter Chookagian 17-4, taking on Amanda Ribas 11-2. And so for this fight, I don't think it's gonna be like Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza, but it might also not. I guess it'd be a pretty good striking match, I guess you could say. For Chookagian, she's coming off of a victory against Jennifer Maia via unanimous decision. Pretty good fight for her. A good head movement, long jab, a lot of side kicks. I don't think she uses her grappling in this fight. She tends to use that against people that obviously aren't gonna threaten with the submissions. I guess Jennifer Mayan could have threatened with submission in that fight. But yeah, I mean, she's literally fighting like everyone in this division, obviously, and she only lose. She lost against Liz Carmouche, she lost against Jessica Ai, she lost against Valentina Shevchenko, and then she lost against Jessica Andrade. So the moment she gets that step up to the contender, she starts to not do so well. But against everyone else, she's able to beat them, right? And it's via unanimous decision or a split decision. So for her to win these fights, it's probably going to be a decision. She's not knocking people out. She doesn't really have that power, but she does have that good volume. And she doesn't fight like she's trying to finish necessarily. She's content with just kind of piecing you up over the course of 3 rounds. Kind of, a lot of pepper shots, getting in your face. And she does land some good shots. I mean, she can put some damage on there, but she's not knocking anyone out. She knows how to win a decision, and she understands the distance and what she needs to do to land the better strikes. For Amanda Ribas, 11-2, coming off that win over Virna Jandiroba via unanimous decision. Her striking in that fight, I mean, in the first round, I think she actually got it dropped or she got rocked, and she wasn't really doing too much. But then she was able to kind of take over the fight. I think Jandiroba started slowing down. She was starting to land better combinations. She was getting a lot more aggressive, got in her face. Her striking's definitely improved. I wouldn't say, though, it's as clean as Chookagian, but it is something to look out for. She's definitely one of these fighters that can go for submissions as well. That's why I don't think Chookagian is going to be taking her down or anything like that. It's not someone you want to get sloppy on that can throw up the submissions. And for Ribas, I think she'll be pressing forward, but Chookagian just has such a great understanding of the range and just how to keep her opponent at bay and kind of play her game and point fight to a win. So Ribas is gonna have to be aggressive, get inside, land a pretty good hooks, try to do something to just close that distance and not get annoyed by the way Chookagian fights. But she can't be dropped, right? So I'm not saying Chookagian is gonna finish her, but I do think. Maybe Ribas, if she can close that distance and start testing the chin, maybe she can land something good there. But cardio is there for both of them too. I'm not too worried about like them gassing out or anything. But I just think overall, Chookagian's gonna be just keeping her at bay, able to land the better strikes and fight more technical and not get frustrated. And maybe she even drops her or something, but I'm not too sure about that. But I think as long as she stays off the floor and Ribas isn't like full mounting her or anything, I think she'll be fine. So I'm gonna go, and I think this fight goes to a decision just with how many decisions she's won. So I don't think like the level of competition has dropped off far enough for her to start winning her fights by knockout or something like that, which is kind of unfortunate because I don't think she's ever really gonna be able to hit that level where she's fighting Valentina Shevchenko, knocking her out cold or anything like that. But we'll have to see, I guess. So for this fight, I'm gonna go Katlyn Chookagian. Stay away from the grappling. Just fight the way she's fight a lot of these fights, point fight and get the victory. So I'll take Katlyn Chookagian, defeat Amanda Ribas. I'll take it a win by a decision. Let's move on into the 4th fight on the main card. We have Davey Dangerous Grant, 13-6, taking on Luis the Last Samurai Smolka. Luis the Last Samurai Smolka. So for Davey Grant, I think he's kind of had a turnaround in his career, right? He's definitely come back. He wasn't necessarily winning. I never really looked at him like, oh shit, this guy's coming in here, because he came off, he lost to Chris Holdsworth, then he beat Marlon Vera, which is a great win to have, hindsight thinking about it. Lost to Damian Stasiak, lost to Manny Bermudez, and then he didn't fight until November the following year, and then he kind of just, he beat Popov, and then he beat Day, and they beat Jonathan Martinez, and then he fought Marlon Vera, and that was a pretty good fight by him. Looking at what Marlon Vera did to Rob Font, I mean, that was pretty solid loss, even though he lost that fight. I thought he stayed in there with him, was able to get a takedown. Didn't get absolutely dominated or anything like that. So that's a pretty good fight. I think he's definitely a tough guy. Coming off a loss over Adrian Yanez, another one though, when you look at the total strikes, 98 to 100, so split decision victory as well. He landed some pretty good shots, man. I mean, this guy's really tough, Davey Grant. When you look at him on the feet, I think he's pretty dangerous. Lands some pretty nasty hooks. Can definitely eat some shots as well. Now it's debatable whether or not Smoke is gonna be able to take him down and what Davey Grant's gonna be able to give him there. If he's gonna be able to defend the takedowns and not get into any of these crazy scrambles. But I think Grant, if he can, he has pretty good kicks. If he can attack the lead legs, chop him up, He does leave his chin open though when he does some strikes, so that's kind of concerning, and that's always something to look out for. But Smolka is definitely one of these guys too that can get rocked as well. Attacks the body with he definitely throws a lot of front kicks, right? So he's able to judge that distance with the front kick, and he's landing it. That's pretty good. Giannis just was so tough, man. Like, he was just so tough, and just kind of landed the better technical striking, I think, and didn't leave his chin open as much, but he ate some shots. I would like to see Grant kind of clean it up a little bit. I think he could have done a lot better against Giannis if he was not so willing to just throw heat and then not really, have any count. Like, if you had more defense, right? I feel like he can definitely throw, but he leaves himself exposed, and it's not the most technical thing in the world, especially over the course of 3 rounds. I think he started to get a little bit sloppy against Giannis. But he has the cardio, man. I mean, he can definitely throw down, eat some shots, get in your face, keep pressing forward, and he's in there. So I'm not really worried about Grant gassing out or anything like that. And that kind of, to me, makes me interested to see how this is going to play out, because Smolka, he's coming off a loss over Vince Morales, KO, TKO. He got caught. He just kind of got caught in that fight. Lost that fight to Vince Morales. Before that, he beat Jose Quinones. He was able to catch him there. Lost to Casey Kenny via submission. Beat Ryan McDonald via KO, TKO. Lost to Matt Schnell via submission. He's kind of all over the place, man. I mean, he only has 3 wins in the past, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In the past 11 fights, he only has 3 wins, so that's not all the best. But he has been fighting, the top guys, I guess you could say. But he's kind of a wild card, in my opinion. Smolka is. He definitely comes forward, has a pretty good, nice left hook. Good knees to the body inside the clinch, but we saw that against Vince Morales. That's kind of where he got caught. He obviously got caught when he was doing all that. Body kicks. His grappling is there, so maybe he can create some sort of scramble. Maybe he can take the back of Grant. Maybe he can lock it in, see what he can do there. And, some of the kicks he does, he leaves himself exposed. So I think I can see Grant trying to counter off a lot of those kicks as well. But at the same time, right, you don't want Smoke on top of you into some scramble, and then he's either trying to get you a submission or he's trying to ground and pound. Pretty dominant here. So I think it comes down to whether or not Grant's able to keep the fight standing, and then whether or not Smolka can do something to get the fight into a crazy scramble, if he can get onto the floor or something. But, man, Grant just... I feel like he can break him, man. I just feel like if he can... I mean, Adrian Yanez, both guys, Adrian Yanez and Marlon Vera, top guys, if not, contenders pretty much at this point. So I think he's still hanging in there, lost via decision as well. And so I can kind of see him just using his striking, keeping this fight standing, getting in his face, breaking him down, and then seeing if he can get a finish here. So I'm going to go Davey Grant on this one. I'm a little bit skeptical just because Smolka maybe pulls something off. Maybe he's able to drop him or something, get his back. But Grant, man, he just seems like a tough bastard. So I'm willing to go again. I'm willing to go with him on this one. So I'm going to go Davey Grant. It'll be an interesting fight, but I think he can get a finish, actually. So I'm going to go Davey Grant to defeat Louis Smolka in round number 2 via KO TKO. Move on into the co-main event of the evening. We have a light heavyweight bout between Ryan Superman Spann taking on Ion the Hulk Cutelaba, and this should be a great fight. Someone's gonna die in this one, pretty sure, right? Every time we say that, and then no one gets, it's just a boring fight or something. But I don't see how this one can be. Ryan Spann 21-7, and then Cutelaba is 16-6 and 1 no contest. Spann is coming off of a loss in his last fight against Anthony Smith, a round 1 rear naked choke. Got dropped in that fight. And then just pretty much, he was doing well against Anthony Smith. Actually, I could say, hey, he definitely landed. I think he was able to like wobble him a little bit, but then Anthony Smith was able to drop him, and it was a pretty, up until he got submitted. But against Misha Shirkinov, he flatlined him. Against Johnny Walker, that was awkward. He was getting slammed in the back of the head when he was going for the takedown. But before that, win over Sam Alvey, Devin Clark. I don't know. These guys in this tier of the light heavyweight, they're kind of like wild cards, man. Because Spann, yeah, I mean, he can go out here, good strength. He can slam Cutelaba. Although I do think Cutelaba is gonna have the better grappling in this one. Spann has a lot of power, but both guys have a lot of power. His striking a little bit wild though. In my opinion, this might be a boring just because they might be too patient for each other, and then next thing you know, you have Spann. He's trying to land one big shot, and then Cutelaba is trying to land one big shot, and it's not really doing anything. But I do think Spann, man, I just feel like he countered badly here and get taken out. Especially if Cutelaba is able to take him down and like mount him or anything like that. Like I don't think that's gonna go too well. So he's gonna have to defend the takedowns. He's gonna have to not get wild with him. Maybe if Cutelaba is the one getting wild, Spann can take advantage of that. Both guys can knock each other out. So it's gonna be a matter of just how they fight, and then who's able to land that big strike. And I think they put him away. But I do think maybe Cutelaba will be able to possibly take him down, or if not, defend the takedown. And then we might have to see what that turns into. For Ion Cutelaba, coming off a win over Devin Clark, the unanimous decision. Pretty good fight for him to go 3 rounds, get that unanimous decision. Only pretty much in like the last 5 seconds, 10 seconds, he was gonna, Devin Clark was able to do something, but Cutelaba was slowing down a little bit. He did fight, I think, a lot smarter in that fight when you look at the comparison to, Magomed Ankalaev when he fought that one. He just got wild, tried to take him out. Even against Dustin Jacoby, he lost. It was a draw or whatever. He had 9 takedowns in that fight, but I think he's really gotta fight smart, slow it down a little bit, man, slow it down. Because I do think Cutelaba can wrestle, but you got to do something when you take him down, right? You got to really make Spann pay. I think he can, right? I definitely think Cutelaba, if he is able to like full mount him or something, I think he's able to finish him. Yeah, Cutelaba, nasty power, very nasty. Wouldn't brawl with Spann, just not worth it. Don't think that's a great idea. See if you can get Spann into some awkward positions and then go for the takedowns. Maybe in full mount him and smash him out, and kind of just fight smart on the feet. Look for the shots. Don't rush anything. Don't start brawling with him. Maybe Spann gets a little frustrated. He goes for something crazy. Ion Cutelaba counters him, puts him to sleep, and then we see what happens. But I do think this is another one of those fights where I think you figure out what happens early on in that first round. I don't think, because even if they both come out kind of reserved, I think maybe, someone's going to make a mistake, right? And they're going to leave themselves exposed. Spann might overreach on a strike, and then Cutelaba counters him, or Cutelaba is able to take him down. But we're going to have to see. But I just feel like... Cutelaba is gonna be able to just crack him, man, and kill him, and maybe he jumps on him, right? He cracks him a little bit, then takes him down, and then that's when we get him, and that's when I think you could see Ion Cutelaba winning this fight via KO TKO in round number 1 by ground and pound. So that's gonna be pretty interesting to see, and then maybe even over the course of 3 rounds, maybe Cutelaba, just because of his grappling, is gonna be able to take him down, and just Spann might be a little more tired fighter, but. Either one of these guys can drop each other, so I wouldn't really bank on too much here. It's just whoever makes that first big mistake. So I'm going to go Ion Cutelaba. I'll take him to defeat Ryan Spann. I'll take him to win by round 1, KO TKO. And then we move on into the main event of the evening. And this should be a pretty good main event, especially for the light heavyweight division. Obviously, Błachowicz is coming off of a loss over Glover Teixeira via submission in round number 2. But before that, they had him fighting the middleweight champion against Israel Adesanya. He was able to go in there and get that unanimous decision. But I do think that fight wasn't really the best, just because, Adesanya, at least right now, maybe that showed him that he needs to train a little bit harder on his takedown defense. Maybe it would be a different fight. Maybe if the ring was not in the Apex, it would have been a different fight. So we don't know. But, Blachowicz was able to take him down 3 times and then get the victory. So really not much to that fight. Before that, though, we saw him against Dominic Reyes. He was able to break him in that fight. Pretty aggressive. We saw him against Corey Anderson. Won that fight. Beat Jacare Souza, Luke Rockhold. The only fight in his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And like the last 11, 10 fights was to Thiago Santos via KO TKO. But he's been climbing. It's funny. He lost to Patrick Cummings, of all people, via unanimous decision. And then Glover Teixeira was just a little bit too much, but he's a little bit too much for everyone on the ground, so that's nothing to necessarily look too much on, because it was pretty understandable that Glover Teixeira was gonna submit him. For Aleksandar Rakic, he's coming in this fight with a win over Thiago Santos, and I honestly think a lot of people are kind of maybe they're not Rakic. Maybe a lot of people aren't counting him out, but I just feel like he's kind of gone under the radar low-key. Maybe because his past 2 fights weren't necessarily the most exciting things in the world. Kind of like, some of these fighters who come in here and they kind of win their fights via decision. And it's a pretty good decision, but obviously that's not what gets the attention going. Thiago Santos, I guess he just did a little bit more than Thiago Santos in that one. He did definitely catch some shots, but Thiago Santos, I don't think he was as aggressive as he needed to be against Anthony Smith. You know, he didn't get credit for a takedown, but he did basically take down Anthony Smith in that one, so that was good to see. He had some control in that fight, which is something that I think is underrated as well. Is his grappling he might be able to look towards, but his striking is pretty vicious. You know, he had that loss against Volkan Ozdemir via split decision. So I mean, even against a lot of these good guys, he's still getting. You know, he's not getting KO'd or anything like that. It's not like he's losing fights like that. Split decision's nothing bad. Maybe they fight again. He wins the fight. You know, maybe he wins the fight by KO or something like that. Rakic, yeah, the one thing I feel like he can do is fight reserved, be patient. He has a lot of feints, so he's always making you think twice. Pretty good chin. Definitely needs some shots. I believe he spars too, like pretty heavily. So yeah, it's debatable what that does. But for powerful high kicks, man, he can throw some nasty high kicks, good low kicks. Dropped Anthony Smith. You know, he slammed into the low kick. It was like the calf kick, and he dropped Anthony Smith with that one. Yeah, I think his wrestling is probably a little underrated. I don't think most people are going to talk about that or look for him to get takedowns or anything like that. But I do think that might be here in this fight if things get a little bit weird on the feet. He does stand heavy on the lead leg, so it'll be interesting to see if Błachowicz is able to take advantage of that. Maybe he's slamming the leg kicks, going to the body with the kicks. You know, Błachowicz can definitely throw a lot of kicks, and he can blitz forward and take you out like he did to Dominic Reyes. And so that's something to look out for. I wouldn't want to be getting into a firefight with Błachowicz, but I do think Rakic can make this fight a little bit annoying for Błachowicz and kind of keep that distance, you know, have good range control, cause that frustration, and then Błachowicz is going to be looking for the big shots, but it's not going to be there, and then he might get countered off of it. So I don't think Rakic is going to fight the way Dominic Reyes did. I think he's a little bit tougher than that, and I think he's going to just have a little bit more better understanding of the range control here with the kicks, and he's going to fight smart. He's going to make this fight annoying, and yeah, it's going to be a pretty good fight to watch, actually, because it's going to be whether or not Błachowicz can close that distance. And not like they have too much of a distance necessarily, but I mean in the sense of like Błachowicz, you know, Błachowicz isn't fighting on the outside necessarily, right? He's going to try to go to those legs, slam in the leg kicks, but he wants to get on the inside. I think he wants to, you know, close that distance so he can KO you with those big hooks. But Rakic, I think, is going to make that a little bit difficult and try to counter if Błachowicz gets a little frustrated. So we'll have to see what happens here. And then, like I said, Rakic maybe pushes him against the fence. Maybe he's able to get some clinch time in there. Maybe he's even able to get a takedown. And so, you know, he has to be careful, too, on the floor. Maybe Błachowicz is able to get a submission or something like that. So I don't necessarily think Rakic is going to be diving in for takedowns, but I do think it might be an option for control if he's able to do it. So, yeah, I think this would be a pretty tough fight. Because I think Rakic is going to fight smart, I don't necessarily think he will get a finish on Błachowicz unless, you know, he catches Błachowicz making a pretty big mistake. Obviously, if Błachowicz wins, I feel like he would get the KO here. But for Rakic, I think he's gonna fight this one smart because I think if you could beat a guy who just fought the champion, maybe get in there, right? Maybe get lucky and get a #1 contender spot. If this isn't for the #1 contender spot, either way, I'm gonna go Aleksandar Rakic on this one. I think he fights smart. He frustrates Błachowicz, lands the better shots, lands the better head kicks, and fights pretty tactical to a decision. So I'll go Aleksandar Rakic to defeat Jan Błachowicz. I'll take him to win by a decision. And that'll do it, guys, for my UFC Vegas 54 main card predictions for the upcoming event. Really looking forward to this fight night. I think it's a pretty solid fight night for once. Always dogging on the fight nights, but this one should be pretty decent as long as they fight and they don't do what... They don't do what Rose Namajunas and Carla Esparza did last Saturday. Let's not have that happen again. But thank you guys for watching. Leave your comments down below. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. You know what? I'll see you guys in the next video.